passive aggressiveness as well as people pleasing. Going back to that word, I mean, you mentioned it before. I think that is a huge one. I deal with people pleasing fairly often, just my own versions of it, because I've always been this chameleon personality. I have my natural state, and I feel like, if, like me out in the woods by myself, that's a different person than you're going to get when I'm social for a couple days and in around people. I just really like reflecting people's personalities back to them, and reciprocating, and I don't know, just seems to be my natural state of being. But it makes me, being a chameleon and mirroring other people, often does put me in a place of people pleasing, where I'm just kind of looking what does this other person want, and I've kind of learned how I've gotten that way, and how my development as a young person has, how it was helpful to me as a younger person, and how it's unhelpful and helpful to me as I get older. So it's always a stepping stone I'm trying to navigate. But when it comes to people pleasing, what do you find the people that you're coaching, even in your own life, how do we not only learn about it, but how do we kind of improve on this? Stand up for ourselves a little bit more, really listen to our inner guidance, and speak up.
Yeah. Great. I love these questions, because I think this is, even if you feel like you're good at conflict, right? Like, how can you not, glean something about reviewing fundamentals or trying to still get better at it, right? Because as you said, leadership is a lifelong skill, and conflict resolution is no different. I think the first is just to, generate that level of awareness, right? What am I feeling right now? Like, if a promise, it feels like it's broken, how do I feel and why? And to be able to be willing to say, if I keep this inside me, it doesn't do any good. I think that was really one of my biggest turning points in conflict resolution, was recognizing, if I am frustrated, the worst thing I can do is just suppress it and try to dissipate it on my own. And then the second mistake is to talk to everyone else around the conflict, and not, so it's one thing to like get it out in the open, but if it's not with the person that you need to resolve the conflict with, that's also unproductive, right? And so to be able to say, hey, you know what? I can't afford to tolerate this. I think that's the first thing to realize about yourself, to say, hey, you know what? There is something broken, and I can't afford to let it sit, because if I do, I'm just going to get more and more resentful. And I've seen that time and time again. People just need to ask themselves, what's the cost of inaction, as we said earlier? And so the second is, okay, if this is out and about, now, do I recognize that the person I need to address with is a collaborator, is a teammate, is a friend, and the best thing for our relationship is for me to be honest. I do need to learn how to be tactful, right? Unless it's a level of bluntness that both people can appreciate and are willing to understand, hey, you know what? This might come across a little rough, but I'd rather say it than not, right? So the second is, okay, I can't tolerate inaction. If I care enough about this person and care enough about the relationship, I need to go ahead and directly address it with the problem with them. And then from there, just to say, hey, you know what? I'm not sure why I'm having these feelings, but these are my feelings, and I need to share them with you, because help me process the story behind them. Help me understand this, right? Because that's one of the quote trump cards that people use in conflict resolution, to say, hey, they can't refute how you feel. Like they might disagree with it, but they can't refute that. And you have to use that very carefully, because on one hand, you're just trying to be honest, but you can't afford to be manipulative. Right. That's the other big mistake, I think, that people, when it comes to this. But I think the initial response to your question is to say, generate that awareness, recognize that you have to do something about it. And then also to remember, hey, this is not about my ego. This is about trying to agree on and honor a higher standard between me and the person that I need to address this with. And I think that's a good start.
Yeah. I definitely like that. When it comes to, I feel like our emotions often get in the way, right? Is that something that you find often you're having to bring shine a little light on, bring awareness around, of maybe people not even recognizing when their emotions are getting the best of them, when emotions, because if I start getting angry and I'm trying to solve a conflict, and I start getting overly emotional or erratic or whatever, sometimes the other person is going to mirror it, and we're going to kind of activate each other in an unnecessary way. Do you have any resolutions for people who might be needing to either notice that they're having an emotional response, or even just if they do already know that they have it, how do they kind of keep it under control, under lock and key?
Yeah. It's definitely not a one size fits all kind of answer, but I think for the truest principles for anybody, for some people, they say, hey, let me just journal, like right now, just let me mental ram dump on a piece of paper. This is what happened. This is what I'm feeling. Because the sooner you give yourself, the sooner you get it out of your head and into a third person state, right? You can kind of be more objective with evaluating your situation. So that's one approach that might work for some people. Other people might need 24 hours, right? Just to say, hey, you know what? Let me sit and process this, and calm down and kind of get it out of let that ride out of my system before I can get back to a rational way of thinking. Because I think while we can't, do away with them completely, I think it's foolish just to completely disregard them, or, to like ignore them, because we're human. Like, we have feelings, we have emotions, but to channel them in a way that's still ultimately constructive. Because like on one hand, hey, your emotions and feelings might be telling you something about the situation. Maybe it's just that, like for me, right, if someone breaks a promise, I feel disrespected. That's the first thing that I feel disrespected, because it says, hey, you made this promise, even if you didn't keep it as originally intended. Like, my expectation is that you still find a way to honor it, that you communicate with me proactively why you couldn't honor it, and that we make alternate arrangements. And it's not without grace. Like, you obviously want to be more accommodating, because like life happens, family emergencies come up, so it's not fair for me to completely judge them based on my understanding of the situation. But I do believe, hey, you know what, your emotions are telling you something, so don't disregard them, but study them, but also don't let them affect how you respond to other situations. And so if you need to take a day before addressing a situation, you don't want to wait too long, obviously, because resentment just festers. But hey, let them know, hey, this happened. Give me a day, and then I'll reach back out again to you, and then we'll be able to assess and collaborate. So something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people will be surprised how different our reactions to something are going to be if we just give it 24 hours. We just give it a little bit of time to cool off, let whatever biochemical responses that were happening in that moment kind of settle. All right, let's get clear-minded. What do I really think about that? What do I really desire out of that situation? What's the best for our overall, community in this situation, our whole group, our whole team? Jerry, do you watch? Just thinking about someone who's a conflict resolution coach, how do you feel when you watch things like the presidential debate, like the more recent one, like where they're not even communicating, they're just kind of attacking each other?